business wouldn't be complete without covering the financial dimension. Our next speaker, of course, does any Toastmaster in Bahrain not know him? I seriously doubt it. Distinguished Toastmaster Hisham Jiffry. He has been a Toastmaster for 6 years and is the immediate past president of Sri Lanka Club Symposium Toastmasters. He has been a professional trainer, mentor, and coach for the last 17 years, training clients in Sri Lanka, Bahrain, Dubai, Jordan, Kuwait, and Saudi. Distinguished Toastmaster Hisham is a Triple Crown winner, District 20 runner-up for Humorous Speech Contest, and the District 20 Evaluation Speech Champion at the DTAC 2020. He's a lifelong lover of literature and language and enjoys reading as a hobby. 17 years spent as an auditor accountant, analyst, and advisor covering KPMG, Colombo Stock Exchange, EY, and Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance. Distinguished Toastmaster Hisham Jiffry is coming before us with the presentation, 7 Pillars of Financial Prosperity. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Madam Master of Ceremonies. We require strong pillars. And this presentation is about 7 pillars that would help you to achieve financial wellness and financial strength. But before we go on to the technicalities, I have a question for you. And that question is a trick question. So if we go on to the next slide, I'm sure that you would have heard this quote before. I want you to take a second and think whether you agree or disagree with it. This is one of the most misquoted quotes in all of the English language, because the original quote is on the next slide. And if we move to the next slide, Mark Twain said, "Lack of money is the root of all evil." Now, it is true that money cannot purchase happiness, but it is also true that lack of money can cause you great unhappiness. Over the last 17 years, as an analyst, accountant, auditor, advisor, consultant, I have been privileged to see some of the greatest financial empires being built, but also sadly to note that a variety of unknown, unnamed, and uncried for individuals would lose a significant amount of their financial well-being in what we call financial markets. The purpose of this presentation is to give you some simple standard set of rules that you can apply all day, every day, apply and forget, so that when you retire, you will have one of the biggest smiles that you could ever imagine. I want to share with you a story. And if we go to the next slide. Once upon a time, there was an 18-year-old student. The student qualified from school and then started professional education. The professional education body was in the UK. And in order to pay the exam fees and the subscription fees, the student had to purchase a small piece of plastic that was called a credit card. When the credit card came into the student's hand, the student told himself, "I am only going to pay the exam fees and I will never even cite the credit card for anything other than the exam fees." But then they go out for coffee, they go out for lunch, and then you've got to buy something for an online purchase. Sometimes your friends don't have ready cash, so you pull out the credit card. And over a period of time, the credit card becomes, from a convenience, it becomes a thundering migraine, because every month you regret that credit card bill landing on your doorstep. The credit card bill becomes a loan. And as you progress through work, housing loans get applied, a staff loan gets applied, salary advances get applied, and then instead of enjoying your life, instead of earning to live, you find that you're living to earn. Is this story familiar to you? Is this story about you? Do you know someone who's the character in this story? It is a very common theme that runs across personal finances, and I have witnessed this over the last almost 2 decades. Financial wellness is a function of one very simple fact. Financial wellness comes from financial discipline. The next 7 simple characteristics will help you to exercise that muscle of financial discipline. On the next slide, we will see the first of those pillars. So if you move on to the next slide, the first pillar is, previous slide, please. The first pillar is save at least 10% of your monthly earnings. I'll repeat that because that's important, and I'll tell you why. Save at least 10% of your monthly income. Now you would say this is very easy to do and this is very straightforward to do, but you go for lunch, you pay the cafe. You live in a house, you pay the landlord. You take a taxi, you pay the taxi driver. You send your kids to school, you pay the school. But I want to ask yourself this: how much do you pay yourself? If we go on to the next slide, the first step to financial independence is that you pay yourself first. One part of everything that you earn belongs to you. You pay the bank, you pay the taxi driver, you pay the person who makes your coffee, you pay restaurants. But how much do you pay yourself? And you are the most important stakeholder in your life. Please feel free to keep one part of your earnings for yourself. And that's absolutely crucial. One part of what you earn is yours to keep. And that needs to be automated. As soon as you get your salary, you must make sure that 10% is kept aside, you invest and you forget. And that discipline needs to start and be practiced every single month. Let's go on to the second pillar on the next slide. If you save 10%, then of course, you've got to learn to live on the remaining 90%. If you save 10%, you've got to live on the 90%. Now, why is that important? It seems common sense. It seems logical. However, the human being is a perpetually wanting animal. Our needs and wants will stretch and stretch and stretch until it stretches way beyond your salary and anything beyond. It's really, really crucial that we ask ourselves, what forms the basis of my expenses? Out of those expenses, what do I really need to spend on? And what's discretionary? And how much of it is required for me to truly prosper? Decision plus action equal results. Another beautiful way of putting it is, dreams without action don't become reality. Financial wellness is a state of being. To get to that state of being, you need to lift your feet and start walking. Savings is one critical part of financial well-being. Let's go on. Let's click one more time because there's something interesting there. If you read the blogs and if you read the articles that are penned by some of the richest people in the world, you would ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of all that money? Because they don't spend money buying 2-dinner coffee. They don't spend their money dining in restaurants. They don't spend their money in unplanned shopping. If you look at some of the most prosperous and wealthy people in the world who have earned money, they understand the value of 1 BD. They understand the value of 1 rupee. They understand the value of $1. Seneca the Elder, one of the most famous philosophers in the world, has this to say: luck is when hard work meets opportunity. You don't get lucky. You've got to be ready to take advantage of luck. For every Apple, for every Facebook, for every Google, for every Airbnb, for every Oracle, there are thousands of other failures that never get spoken about. As DTM Sadika shared, history is written by the winners. And your story is a function of your decisions and actions. Make sure that you decide and you act. Ask yourself, is it really required to have a 2.5 BD Starbucks every single day as I drive to work? If you assume it's 2 BD per day for 5 working days, that's 10 BD. For 52 working weeks, that's 520 BD, which is the price of an air ticket that you could have gone to the USA for the Toastmasters convention, hopefully once COVID-19 goes away. Actions have consequences, and it is up to you to pick the result that you want. Let's go on to pillar number 3, Mr. Moderator. The third pillar is to take advantage of this common secret. I'm sure you have heard of Bitcoin. I'm sure you have heard of cryptocurrency. I'm sure you have heard of the word derivatives. I'm sure you have heard of the word option, swap, forward. These instruments are not for you and me. These instruments are so that players in the financial market can play their financial games. For you and me, common people of the common world, we want to put and forget, invest, and then enjoy your retirement. Take advantage of the power of compound return. Time is limited, therefore I can't demonstrate to you the tremendous power of compound return. Start small, start early, keep it consistent. Your investments will grow at a tremendous rate. There's an interesting example of taking an A4 and folding it into, and then folding it into 4. Google this exercise because you will find that within a few folds, that A4 can reach the moon. That is the power of compound return. 10% every month, like a prayer, you put it, you forget it. In 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, at the time of your retirement, that small 10% would have grown exponentially, making your retirement comfortable. Let's go on to the next slide. The fourth pillar is my second most favorite pillar. There's a difference between expenses and investments. An expense is that I purchase something and then I forget about it. An expense is consumed and gone. But an investment is something you put the money and you earn the returns, you enjoy the income for a long period of time. When you make an investment, it's a conscious decision to sacrifice present enjoyment for future satisfaction. I really believe in it, so I'll repeat it once more. Investment is the sacrifice of present consumption for future enjoyment. Therefore, when you invest in what you can understand and with people that you can trust. When you go to a restaurant, do you eat things that you know, or do you eat things that are completely unknown to you? If you're really careful about what goes into your body, shouldn't you also be careful what is taken out of your wallet? Let's go on to the next slide, Mr. Moderator. One of my favorite financial gurus is Warren Buffett, because for almost 6 decades, you can't beat him. The returns that he has shown and the money that he has made through very common sense investment holds a tremendous amount of power. And very surprisingly, he has a very good relationship with his daughter-in-law. In a book called The Tao of Warren Buffett, Mary Buffett says that her father-in-law mentions these 2 very powerful quotes. And the first quote is, let's click once more. Invest in a business that can be run by a fool, because someday it will. Most of the time, when you look at some of the most successful businesses in the world, once it goes to the second generation of children or second generation of management, of the value. And then by the time it goes to the third generation, the business is history. One of the greatest examples is what's happening with Apple. The face of Apple used to be Steve Jobs. The minute that Steve Jobs is gone, it's really difficult for Tim Cook to manage. So make sure that you understand the business that you're putting your hard-earned money into. Because if it does not earn money sustainably today, it's going to be really difficult to expect sustainable earnings in the future. Let's click once more because there's a very nice quote. Warren Buffett says, I don't look to jump over 7-foot bars. I can't do it. I look to jump over 1-foot bars that I can step over. The journey to financial well-being, the journey to financial independence is not driven in a Formula One car. It is driven in a 10-year-old Toyota. You will get there, but you can't get there fast. There is no shortcut. You've got to take the stairs. There is no elevator to success. And that's something that has been said by many, many financial gurus in the world. One of the best examples is, if I join a gym today, I have 2 options to build my body. Either suffer and eat the iron, lift the bars, do the exercises for 2, 3, looking at me, maybe 5 or 6 years until I can achieve the physical fitness that I want. What's the second option? The second option is to inject myself or to ingest myself with illegal substances. Short-term gain for long-term pain. You want financial independence to be sustainable and successful. That comes through sustainable, small bites of investment. One of the trainers that I really respect once made this observation, and he said, Hisham, how do you eat an elephant? I said, I don't know. He said, bite by bite. Your elephant is financial independence. The way you get to that elephant is 1 bite a day. Let's look at the next pillar, Mr. Moderator. The 5th pillar is an interesting one. And for you and me who live here, it's a really crucial pillar. Because in my Toastmasters meetings, we had a treasurer, and that treasurer was an engineer. When he was giving his competent communicator speeches, one of the speeches he did was on this particular pillar. And he put up an Excel sheet that showed if you pay 200, 300, 400, 500 BD per month on rent, it's as good as you just simply throwing it away, because in 20 years' time, the money is gone and you have no asset. But at the same time, if you put that into a small house, a small property, at the end of your time in this country or at the time that you're about to leave, you would still have a tangible property that may or may not have appreciated, but you can sell it for something, take back something, and earn it in something. And of course, as you and I know, something is better than nothing. Let's go on to the next pillar, Mr. Moderator. The 6th pillar is, don't think you are Thor. Don't think you are the Incredible Hulk. None of us belong to the Marvel universe. We all belong to the human race. When we are in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, we think we are a leopard or a lion or a tiger. That's true. But once you go into 50s, 60s, 70s, in other words, the sun that rises has to set someday. What you can do in your 20s is not possible to do in your 40s and 50s. In other words, the mind is willing, but the body is not, which means make provision for it. It's a little bit like going to have dinner on Thursday night in Jufair in Bahrain. You know you will not get any parking. So either you go early, or you share a car, or you find a place that has reserved parking. Proper planning prevents particularly poor performance. Plan ahead, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Make sure that in the evening of your lives, there is something that you have made provision for, so that when illnesses come, it doesn't add to your worries, but you have something to take care of it. Which brings us to our final pillar, which is my absolutely favorite pillar. Mr. Moderator, let's do it. Let's go on to pillar number 7. The seventh pillar is invest in the most important asset of your personal development, and that is you. You have got to take care of you. Your boss won't do it for you. Nobody else will do it for you. You have got to make sure that your personal development is your personal responsibility. If you choose to Netflix and chill, then very soon you will be flicked off and killed. So make sure that your personal development falls under the purview of your personal responsibility. It's really crucial. When we lose weight or when we try to lose weight, I have to diet, not my next door neighbor. So if your physical well-being comes from physical discipline, your financial well-being should come from financial discipline. Keep finding ways to invest in this asset so that this asset will improve. Let's go on to the next slide, Mr. Moderator. Strive to be the best version of you. Why? Because there is only one of you. So if you become the best version of you, there will be nobody like you. Whether it is Tony Robbins or whether it is Robin Sharma or whether it is anybody else, there is only one of them for the history of the world. There is only one of you for the history of the world. What you have, no one has. What you can do, no one else can do. What you can give, no one else can give. So why not give it and make sure that you are the most powerful version of yourself? Let's click once more. People don't hire you for what you know. They hire you for what you can do. With blockchain, Bitcoin, big data, robotics, automation, analytics coming in, every basic task gets automated by robots. That means what you are supposed to do for your companies is now expected to be higher than ever before. Gone are the days where we could go 22 days to work, type on an Excel sheet, get my monthly salary and go back. Ain't gonna happen in the future. You've got to be able to solve problems for people that they didn't even know they had. That's how you become memorable. So if you want to become memorable, you've got to solve problems that are memorable, which means you've got to have skills that are memorable. If you do what you always do, you will get what you always get. If you do what everybody else does, you will get what everybody else does. The journey to extraordinary achievement is not on the highway. You've got to take an axe, a sword, and you've got to cut through the road, make your own path. Be a visionary. Have faith in your skill, because there is only one of you. What you can do, and if you can do it to the best ability at world-class level, there cannot be anyone that touches you. Michael Phelps had a big foot and he used it to win gold medals. Usain Bolt was taller than average and he was running the 100 meters. He used it and leveraged it to break every known record that is known to man. Let's click once more. This pandemic is a dark cloud, but every cloud has a silver lining. You have been gifted with the gift of time. You have been gifted with the gift of flexibility. You have been gifted with the gift of online learning. Time, flexibility, online learning. You have the answer right in front of you. Use this time to better yourself. Use this time to upskill yourself, because trust me, the pandemic will end, as Dr. Babu mentioned. And when it ends, you want to be ahead of it. Make sure that you are ready for the jobs that will be there once this cloud goes away. Let's click once more. All of this comes from a book. And that book was published in the 1920s, and it was called The Richest Man in Babylon, Let's click once more, Mr. Moderator. And that book is where this wisdom comes from. If you want to start making that investment, I would recommend that you read it. It costs about 4.6 BD. Costs about 4.6 BD. Age-old wisdom, which is applicable. There is practical stuff, but very little fluff. However, reading the book does not make you financially free. It makes you well-read. The road to financial freedom is a muscle that has to be exercised. You have pain today, you will live tomorrow. Let's click one more time. As with any good story, how does reading this book impact me? For the last 3 years, I have been actively trying, and I will now redouble my efforts to make sure that I have a credit card, but the bill is zero. That's significant. I'm not saying that I will not have a credit card, but I want to make sure that I use the card and the card doesn't use me. Click one more time. I'm trying really hard every single month to increase savings. So whether it is keeping 20 BD in an envelope and hiding it in my shoe closet, whether it is keeping 5 BD in my cubby and then forgetting about it, I'm trying to exercise the muscle of saving. Because in 20 years' time, I want to be at a place that is higher and better than I am in today. The third one is painful. I love my coffee. However, coffee does come at a price. As the Chinaman once told my grandfather, good things no cheap, cheap things no good. But coffee is one of the things I can do without. So instead of buying coffee from Starbucks or Costa or Caribou every day, I have chosen to make my coffee and carry it to office in a vacuum flask every single day. That's at least 2 BD saved every day. Let's click once more. I have tried in this time period to invest in studies, courses, meetings, presentations, coaching, training, and mentoring. Because when the day comes that the curtain of COVID goes away, I want the sun of opportunity to be shining as brightly as possible. So given this time period where I don't have to drive and park and I don't have to go into physical meetings, I want to use this time to its maximum effort to improve the muscle here so that it will improve the financial muscle when the opportunity arises. Let's click one more. I try to read a book every day. I try to read a few pages every day with my morning coffee. And I try to read at least 20 minutes per night before I go to sleep. And you will not believe the amount of benefit it has had. Because that knowledge stays with you. You can apply it in a conversation. You can apply it in a training. And I can share it with you. People remember if you make the pain go away. And if you are to make the pain go away, you've got to be able to have the tools, and that doesn't fall from the sky. It comes with effort. Let's click one more time. I used to watch TV. I used to binge watch TV. As with many of us, how long would it take you to finish a TV series of 24 episodes? Probably 3 days. For the last 4 years, I have completely stopped watching TV. And the only TV that I watch is 1 hour per week on Friday with my family. The time that I spend is spent on either research, reading, or speaking to mentors or coaches or people who can give me some benefit that I can pass on that wisdom to someone like you. Let's click once more, and that's the most painful one of the lot. I have to fight really hard. Just yesterday, I got 3 messages saying there is a 70% sale, 60% sale, and I have to say, do not talk to me about sales. It's hard. It's very hard. It's end of the month, you may be getting your salary, and then you also know it's time to celebrate. You also know sales are on. Summer is turning to winter, but ask yourself, is it really necessary? In 20 years' time, would this purchase have made my life, or could it have? These are the personal takeaways that I have applied from the 7 pillars of financial wisdom that comes from this particular book. Let's click once more. As I told you, my second favorite rule was rule number 4. But with rule number 7, Warren Buffett says there's 2 rules to financial prosperity. Let's click once more. Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2, let's click once more, is never forget rule number 1. Money comes, but money goes even faster. Those of us who are treasurers in Toastmasters know this. It's difficult to keep the money. So it's up to us to actively make sure that the funds you hold will be the funds that make your retirement comfortable. Let's click once more. C.S. Lewis says you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. The future is in your hands. And whether those hands remain idle and do the work for you, or whether those hands remain busy but doing things that don't add value to you, is entirely up to you. And it's important that that decision be taken today. Let's click once more. Good luck, God bless you, and I wish you a very happy, financially free future. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hisham Jiffry. I have been your fan ever since I saw your performance during your last division and district contest. Now I'm sure that you have made more fans through your speaking skills. Thanks a lot for gracing this event.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your kind words.
It's our pleasure. Let me call up our moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster of Ceremony. Thank you, DTM Hisham Jiffry, for this wonderful session. One thing I understood, it's all game of 10%. If you have saved 10%, the financial wellness is there with you. Am I right? As Dr. Babu says in chat box, this session we would have heard many years before. I agree with him. If you would have heard this session 30 years before, today my name and Dr. Babu's name would have put in Warren Buffett's slide also. Thank you very much, DTM, for wonderful insight. The insight, it was really great. I liked one most important point: decision and action gives results. And luck is when hard work meets opportunity. That says working hard and hardly working. What is the difference? Luck lies in between this. Thank you very much. Is there any questions from audience? I know there may not be questions because your entire session was very simple with action-based tips. So you all convinced this, and thank you very much for being with us today, DTM Hisham Jiffry. Your insights really helped us to understand the financial wellness and how important it is. So as a token of gratitude, we would like to share this with you for being with us from Area 16, Division C, District 20 of Toastmasters International. Thank you, DTM Hisham Jiffry.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Over to you, Master of Ceremony.
Thank you, Toastmaster Roshan.